I love the idea of advisors having 30, 40, 50% more time to spend with clients because I love the idea
Yep.
of more people having access to advice.
Yep.
So that problem is a never-ending pursuit of interesting, great ideas. So yeah, am I thinking 10 years from now? Absolutely, because the problem is never done.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Don't Do That podcast. I am your host, Kelly Waltrich, and I am very excited for my guest today, Ainslie Simmonds from BNY. If you don't know her, she is taking on a major challenge in bringing new technology to the RIA space and trying to take on some of the biggest technology companies in the space and their way of thinking. And it has been my pleasure to watch it unfold over the last couple of years. So thank you for joining us, Ainslie.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So tell us about you and your role and what you're bringing to market.
Yeah, so I have a background in FinTech. I've been at a couple different startups, and I joined BNY about 3.5 years ago to start a FinTech in the bank.
Yes.
Which everyone thought was crazy. And so we called it Pershing X because it sort of was adjacent to Pershing and adjacent to BNY. So it sits in that sort of middle space.
Yep.
And we didn't know what it was yet. So we just kind of called it that, kind of like Google X, didn't know what it was yet. And we got to work, started researching, trying to figure out what the white space was in the market, what the unmet need was, meeting with clients, figuring it out, really listening, doing research, all that good stuff.
Yep.
And after a bunch of time doing that, we figured out what the problem was that we wanted to solve. And that problem was the swivel chair problem, where advisors have been sort of collecting pieces of technology that don't connect, making it really hard for them to work across applications to get the job done that they need to get done for clients. And where it really shows up is it shows up as a productivity problem where they don't spend enough time with clients. They spend about 65% of their time behind the desk.
Yep.
As opposed to actually meeting with clients. So we decided that was our problem to solve. And we built a prototype, took it out to market, got a bunch of feedback, and then started coding. About 1.5 years in, we launched the product at our Insight conference. It is called Wove.
Yes.
The name should
Love
explain what it does.
Love
which
it.
is it connects all those applications in what we call our operating system. So Wove is a wealth as a service platform. It has all the applications and an operating system, which is a data layer and workflow that connects them all. So that's what I've been doing.
Awesome. Okay. So I never got to ask you this before, and I'm excited to do it on this podcast. Tell me, what does the conversation look like to get you to undertake something like that? Like, did they come to you and say, hey, we want to solve a problem, we want to build a tech? Did you go to them? Like, how does that even happen?
Yeah. So I was busy doing other stuff.
Right.
And I got a phone call from a recruiter, and they were like, there's a really big company that wants to do something really innovative in the wealth space, and we're not going to tell you who it is.
Awesome.
And I was
Perfect.
like, cool. And I'm thinking to myself, like, who is it? So they actually asked me, the recruiter, I had no idea who the company was. They actually asked me to write a white paper, like a couple-page white paper of, if you were to build something super innovative in the wealth tech space, what would you do? So I was like, oh, that's just kind of a fun assignment.
Right.
So I just kind of wrote what I thought I would do, because I've been in and around this space for a little while. As I said, I've been in a couple FinTechs. And so I just thought, well, that would be fun. So
Yeah.
I wrote a white paper, sort of shoved it across the desk to this recruiter. And I was like, well, that was fun. That was a Sunday morning.
Oh my gosh.
And I didn't think anything else of it. And then I got a call a couple weeks later, and they said, so we'd like to now have you come in and like to have you meet a bunch of people. which I did. Found out who the company was, of course.
Right.
And I really got to meet basically all the senior executives at BNY, including our now CEO, Robin Vince, who had built the business case for this investment in this wealth tech platform. And I was blown away. I was blown away by the vision of these folks, by the commitment, by the foresight to do this as
Yeah.
a fintech within the bank and sort of wall it off to give it room to breathe,
Yeah.
and with the level of support they're willing to give it, and what I call patient capital, right? If you're venture backed, which I've been many times,
Mm-hmm.
there is a freneticism and a
Right.
pace that you have to run at, and you have to make decisions in a way that I think is in some ways healthy, but in some ways is really tough.
Right.
You know, what we've been able to do, which is really different, is really make a lot of really hard infrastructure decisions because our capital is very, very patient.
Yep.
Like building this OS, no joke, no
Right.
joke.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
600 people
Yep.
building Wove out of the gate. That is an investment that like you got to be pretty certain about,
Right.
right?
Willing to play the
To
long game
take
for sure.
on.
Yep.
And so I just saw that level of commitment and I thought to myself, God, this is a once in a lifetimer to build something at scale that can truly change the industry and change millions of people's lives. Because at the end of the day, if you make advisors more productive, our mission, what we say our mission is to help advisors help more people. There's only 300,000 advisors in the United States. That number hasn't changed for a decade
Right.
more. If we can't help advisors get more productive, we can't help more Americans with their money.
Right.
So it's math, right? It is math at some
Yeah.
level. So we got really excited about that mission, and that scale needs that kind of patient capital. So all the stars aligned for me.
Awesome.
It's kind of the story.
So I was at eMoney Advisor when we got bought by Fidelity. And on the surface, there were so many things I disliked about it, right? Because we were part of this fast-paced technology company and they're Fidelity, right? They're huge, they're thoughtful, where we were breaking things. They're, just totally different, right? But I saw the cool thing that I got to see through that transaction was the way that the technology business changed them in really exciting ways. And they were super willing to do that. Like Abby Johnson was like, yes, I'm going to take this opportunity to change. Like, do you see amazingly positive things from this, like happening all across the bank? I imagine that's like so cool to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it's happening, but it's also happening because BNY is going through a broad transformation, and Wove was sort of the first step in, I think, a master plan that Robin actually had to turn the whole firm into what he describes as a platform company.
Yep.
So we have many businesses at BNY. We're number one in many of those businesses, and we had been operating as kind of independent lines of business. And when he got here as CEO, he said, if we can de-silo and create actual platforms that service segments, right, as
Yep.
opposed to these weird kind of lines of business, then our opportunity is so much bigger. So I actually now am taking on what we call the wealth segment. So I'm taking on anything that
Wow.
touches the wealth segment. And the platform that I'm now responsible, which Wove is going to be the kind of front
Yeah.
face technology on, is anything that touches the wealth segment. So banking, lending, custody, our advisory platform, our anything that touches the wealth segment. So now we're bringing all these capabilities from all around BNY, which has always been the opportunity, right? There's stuff there's stuff in this
Yes.
place that is so incredibly powerful.
Right.
Our money movement platform, it's crazy, this stuff we have here.
Yeah.
And this new platform operating model that we're talking about publicly now is
Yep.
it's very clearly talked about in our earnings calls. So I feel like very
Yeah.
open to talk about it here. Is just unlocking all this value for our clients, and our clients are saying, wow,
Yes.
this is a totally different um BNY. And so it's a totally different BNY Pershing, right?
Love it.
Before, Pershing was sort of like this thing that was kind of bought by the bank and sort of left alone a little bit.
Yeah.
And now we're like, boom, all this stuff that BNY can offer is coming through because I'm the segment owner now
Yeah.
of the wealth segment. So yes, the ability to pull it through is happening, but it's also happening because it's happening in every
All
single place
across.
at the firm. And it's
That's
so
cool.
fun to
Yeah.
be part of a firm that is just doing this at scale. 50,000 people
It's
are
amazing.
changing from this old way to this new way. And it's like awesome blossom, it's great.
Yes. I feel like you have to have a certain personality to be able to buckle up for that kind of
Oh yeah. Yeah.
transformation.
And I'm telling you, there's definitely some people that are like, bye, not for me. But the
Right.
people that are here are so lit up by it. It's really
Right.
cool.
That's awesome. Okay, so my last question before we get into your don't do that. You decided to take on the biggest names in our business in fintech, like the most embedded fintech firms. Like, this is no joke, and I'm not sugarcoating that. It is what it is. And so I'm taking my shower this morning. I'm thinking about this call, and I'm thinking, okay, one, you have to be a little bit crazy, which I like about you. And two, I imagine that as you're embarking on this journey, you're not thinking, how do we take them on today? But you're thinking like, okay, if this platform build is going to take us a couple years, by the time we hit that couple years, we better be well ahead of them, right? So like, how do you even think through that? It's like mind-boggling to me.
Yeah. So someone really wise in my startup days gave me the best piece of advice in my life. So I'm going to share it here because,
Cool.
if you're embarking on the crazy, which
Yes.
you just said I did, so I'll just take it.
Yes.
They said, love the problem.
Yes.
Don't love the answer.
Hmm.
You don't come at this with an idea. Don't think I have the answer. So was my white paper the right answer? I have no idea.
I want to
Love
read
the
that, by the
problem.
way.
What?
I want to read that, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. I have shared it with a few people. Not sure. I'd have to go back and cleanse it and make sure it's good enough for the likes of you because you're pretty dang smart. But love the problem. I love the problem of
Yeah.
advisor productivity. I'm actually strangely obsessed by it
Yeah.
because I'm slightly obsessed by productivity in my own life.
Right.
And I love the idea of advisors having 30, 40, 50% more time to spend with clients because I love the idea
Yeah.
of more people having access to advice.
Yep.
So that problem is a never ending pursuit of interesting, great ideas. So, yeah, am I thinking 10 years from now? Absolutely, because the problem is never done.
Right.
I would love for another 100, 200,000 advisors to come into the industry. I would love our industry to crack that, but
Yep.
we haven't.
Right.
So, and you know what? I don't know how to do that. I
Right.
don't know how to attract 200,000 new
You,
professionals into the industry. I have no brilliant ideas there. But I got and my team has a lot of brilliant ideas on
yep.
how to take stupid work out of the system. You
Yes.
bring AI in too, and it's just like, blah, 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 like there's a million billion ideas of how to get the stupid stuff that advisors have to do and their staff has to do. Because we're also talking middle back office
Right.
their staff has to do. And it is like, we wake up every day and everyone's like, what about this? And what about this? And what about this? And what about
It's
this? And what
awesome.
about this? And because we built on this foundation of connectivity, we built on a foundation of single data layer, single workflow.
Yep.
It unlocks this ability to do these crazy good things. So, yeah, am I crazy? Yes, but
I meant that in the most loving way. You know
yeah,
that.
but you got to love the problem, right?
Yeah.
Because, I just woke up, we all did, to Satya Nadella saying that SaaS is dead, software is dead.
Unreal.
And I was like, oh, wait, I just spent the last 3 years of my life building a SaaS platform. Cool. And it's dead. Cool. But then
Mm,
I'm like, you know what? I love the problem. And he's right. It is kind of dead.
yeah.
And we got to jump into the future. And if I love the productivity problem, which I do,
Yeah.
then I don't care how it gets solved.
I
So
love that.
you,
I love
yeah,
that.
you really gotta like, and so that was the best piece of advice someone gave me. And so you're always willing to pivot if you love the problem. You're never stuck in a singular idea.
Yep.
And so you just keep pace. Yeah.
I can so appreciate that. I've been thinking a lot about marketing, and marketing is so ripe to be disruptive with all this AI stuff. I am not naive to that. I'm also not one to be left in the dust. So I've been thinking morning, noon, and night, like, how do I make sure that every single one of these things that's being given, all these wild tools that are being given to us, are being used by our team to help the firms that we help get and stay ahead. So I kind of love that framing, Ainsley. I feel like I'm going to
Love
use
the
that.
problem, man.
Love the
And it
problem.
also really makes you articulate
Yeah.
the problem you're here to solve.
Yes. Love it. Okay. So, the premise of this show is
Mm.
don't do that. I love the idea and I thrive on the idea that we learn more from our failures. So, why not learn from each other's mistakes and sort of get a head start? Um, so, what are we not doing today?
Yeah. So I'm, as we always joke on my team, I'm no spring chicken. So I've been at this a long time, and I've come to learn that talent is everything. Truly, the people you surround yourself,
Yes.
you and I vibe on this, man.
Yes.
Talent is everything. The people
So
you
true.
surround yourself with is everything. So
Yep.
you know what I'm not doing? I'm never doing again. Never doing it, because I've done it way too many times. And every time I do it, I go, Ainsley, stop. I'm never hiring a brilliant jerk.
Ah, love that. And I totally did not see that coming as your don't do that, but I love it.
I am never hiring a brilliant. They're so shiny. They're so smart.
So
They're like
true.
great. They look great. They sound great. They've done great things. You're like, they're sparkly. They're great.
Yes.
And they're jerks.
Oh, and they are poison.
They're poison. They do terrible things. They backstab people. They don't
Yes.
team.
Oh my
They
gosh.
they they say they don't say it in the meeting. They say it outside the meeting. They
Yes.
don't tell the truth. They're just jerks, man. They kill you. They kill your team. They kill the vibe. They say bad things to clients.
Uh,
Like, I never, and when I do, because sometimes they slip in
they do.
because they're so sparkly,
Yes. Oh my
I
gosh.
have to say to myself, Ainsley, for God's love, you get them out. Like,
Oh my
stop
gosh.
it.
That is
Stop it,
hilarious.
stop it, stop it. And why do I keep making the same dang mistake? I don't know. But please, God, can I not do that? Can I not do
Yes.
that?
Oh my God, that is too good. Okay, so how are we sniffing these people out? Tell me. What are we doing? Because
It's tricky.
yes,
It
I
is,
know.
it's super tricky. Why do I keep making the same mistake?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
I have come to love the panel
Yeah.
interview.
Mm-hmm.
I've come to love the coffee, lunch, or dinner,
Yep.
right? Where you can sort of observe the human behavior. I've come to love a little bit of the informal reference
Yes.
where
Oh, for
you're
sure.
like,
For sure.
hi, I want to talk about their work, but I kind of also want to talk about how they were to others and their team. I did one of those on someone that I kind of had a little bit of spidey sense, came highly referred, said all the right things. I had a little spidey sense, and I had a good enough relationship with the person, someone I knew where the person was coming from.
Yeah.
And I said, like, literally, give it to me straight. Is this a brilliant jerk? And the person was like, yes.
Oh
And
my
I was like,
gosh.
thank
Brilliant.
you. because you just saved me one. And you got to use all the tools in the toolkit because listen, someplace they're a good fit.
Right.
There's somewhere they're a good fit. There's cultures and places where that might be okay.
Right.
That could be cool somewhere else. I just can't do it. I can't do it. It's not good for my team. It's not good for my culture. It's not good for me personally. It's not
Oh
good
my
for what we're
gosh.
trying to do. And so I don't do that. I'm in the
Oh,
don't do that.
I love that. I So I do the panel interview with my team, so I'm totally on board with that. And when people get to me, I'm the culture, and people are surprised by that. I think they get to me and they're like, "She's gonna ask me hard questions," and I don't. I trust my team to do that, and I ask them things like, "Tell me about your family, and what are your hobbies, and like, what would your friends say about you?" And people are like appalled. I think they look at me and they're like, "This is the interview she's giving me," and I'm thinking to myself, "You wouldn't have made it here if my team thought you were an idiot." Like, they're not gonna do that to me. So I try to give them.
I always ask, what mistake are you most proud of?
Ooh, that's a
If
good
they can't
one.
answer that question, if they're not proud of mistakes they've made,
That's the whole premise of this show.
I know I'm like, what mistake are you most proud of? What are you so glad? What are you so glad that you screwed
Yes.
up? And they look at me like the brilliant jerks look at me like, what do you mean? I
Mistakes.
don't
I don't.
screw up. I'm
Or,
perfect.
or
And
I
I'm like,
love.
"Mm,
Yes, I love when they like do that spin thing that you learn when you're like in high school, where it's like,
yeah.
if they
Well,
ask you
my
a
great
hard question.
weakness is actually my greatest strength.
Yes. Oh. Ugh. No, thank you. No, thank you.
No,
Oh.
gracias. No,
Oh my
I'm with
gosh.
you.
It's
Yeah.
so it's so you think about what a brilliant jerk does to your business, and you're so right, and it is so hard to recover from, especially in key roles. You lose sometimes months and months and months and months
Because
of
you don't
progress.
know how nefarious they are. Because they're brilliant.
Yes.
They
Sneaky.
say all the smart things, and you're like, God, you're smart. Yes. Because I do love brilliance.
Yes.
Brilliance,
Same.
yes.
Yep.
Amen to brilliance. It's the jerky bit. You're
Oh my
like, whew.
gosh.
Yeah. So that's my thing. Don't do
Oh
that.
my gosh.
Don't do
It's
that.
so
Don't hire them. Don't keep them. Don't let them in. And when you do, when they sneak in, get them out
quick. Get them out
quick.
quick. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Okay, I love that. I think that that's brilliant advice. Okay, so for all our listeners out there, what we are not doing is we're not hiring brilliant jerks. That is amazing. We can all take a lesson from that. So Ainsley, give us like your best advice for how firms can look at the people that they have and see like what is the landscape? Who are these people? Who do you need to move out? Who do you need to move on from? Who do you need to make sure is not poisoning your culture? Because sometimes, like we said, it's so hard to do it. And how do you tell yourself, well, that person is doing great work, but it's not worth it?
Not worth it. Yeah. I mean, it's tricky, as we
Yeah.
said.
Yeah.
So you got to take all this with a little bit of grain of salt because not every tool works for every use case,
Right,
right?
right.
But I always am very cautious with people that just won't say it
Yeah.
in a meeting, right? Where they'll come up to you afterwards and they're like, I need to tell you that that whole conversation, I have a totally different point of view. And you're like, why didn't you just say it? Because we had this whole meeting
Uh-huh.
where you could have just said the thing that you just said to me in the meeting,
Yep.
where we could have actually had the conversation. Other people could have contributed, debated. Like, why did you feel the need to herd me off
Yeah.
and talk about it privately with me?
Yeah.
Because like, I can appreciate if that's like a personal issue or something like that. But like when it's work, like
Yeah.
just
Oh,
say
yeah.
the thing.
Say
Say
the
the
thing.
thing. So
Yep.
that's a tell for
Oh my
me.
gosh, you're giving me like a moment here.
Another tell for me is if people are like, I always like to call it a knower over a learner. If someone's like, oh, I know this. And I'm like, do you? Because I don't know anything. Um, I'm pretty sure that I don't know anything. And the more I think I know, the more I know I don't know.
Right.
So I'm very curious how you think you know everything. So that's another tell. If everyone's like, I know how this works. I'm like,
Mm,
do do you?
yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure that the world is changing so fast these days
We all have a
that
lot
if
to
you
learn.
thought you knew how it worked, like
Yeah.
let's just take the internet,
Yeah.
okay?
Yep.
We all live on the internet. Every day, our kids teach us how the internet works.
No joke. My
Like,
kid's 5. I mean, I'm
I'm
like,
like,
what?
think I know how the internet works, yet
Right.
I have no idea how the
Right.
internet works. I called my daughter, who's 18, last night because I was like, I want to do this like super complicated TaskRabbit thing for my other daughter's birthday. And like, I went on the TaskRabbit website and it's changed so much. I'm kind of confused. So, can you teach me? And she's like, Mom, I got you. I got you. And,
Oh,
and she was like,
yes.
I got you. And I was like, great. Because I am smart enough to know that I don't know how the internet works
Everything.
anymore, you
Yeah.
know? And so I don't know. People who think they know also a bit of a tell,
Yep.
and there is expertise granted. I know people are smarter than me in lots of topics, but like people who feel like they know
Everything.
everything, like
Yep.
I'm sort of like, you're creeping me out a little bit.
And we do live in a industry with quite a ego problem, I think. It's
For
really
heavens to
it's,
Betsy.
it's really it's really appalling on a day-to-day basis. I just think to myself like, "Whew,
Oof.
how did I land here some
I
days?"
don't know where you're getting your confidence there,
I
but
know.
yeah. So I don't know. That's another tell for me if people are like, I know this. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't
Mm,
know anything. So I don't know how you know, but okay.
right.
So that's another tell. There's a few others. The arm cross in the meeting, that one kills me. I'm like, where do you think you can sit back in a chair with your arms crossed in a discussion where we're talking about the future? I don't get it. Like, where do you?
Right.
So, there's
There's
tells.
tells. You're so right. Oh my gosh. I hope you're all listening intently and thinking about how you're acting in meetings and with your peers right now. We all need to sometimes do like a self-assessment, right? When we hear these things. Oh, but we are not hiring brilliant jerks. And I
Jerks. We're not
appreciate
hiring brilliant jerks. I mean, unless you're in a company or a business where that's a good idea.
or
I
where they're
mean,
like
I'm not
locked away somewhere.
I'm not here
Yeah.
to say my thing's everybody's thing, like, but you asked me
No, I
what
asked
my
you.
thing is. That's my thing. So,
I love it. I love it. I think that's great. And I think that's great. A great reminder to everyone here in terms of how to think about the recruiting process, the hiring process. It is so hard. I think about, I'm the same as you. Like, I've hired more marketers in my career than I can even count. And my team was like, hey, how about you just be the culture person? We'll pick the people. I'm like, okay, I hear you. I hear you. So
yeah.
like
Yeah.
I've made my fair share of.
But the culture thing, it's a thing. Like, someone asks, I get asked all the time, how did you pull off a startup in the bank? How did you bring the
Yes.
velocity of a startup in a bank? How did you do that? You started from scratch. How did you do it? How did you, because two-thirds of my hires were from in the bank and about a third were from the outside. So how did you create this velocity? Because we have the velocity of a startup. How did you
Right.
create the velocity of a startup in the bank? And it's culture.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Is all the mechanics were here. It's culture. And so that culture gets defined on a daily basis. It's what gets rewarded. It's what gets said. It's what gets ignored,
Yep.
frankly. It's what gets slightly tapped down, And so it's the stories you tell.
Yeah. End of the
It's
day, it's
all of those
everything.
things,
It's so
and
important.
so it's really important to think about culture. It's okay that you're the culture person because culture drives velocity.
Right. Yeah, and I just think, and I'm gonna leave everybody with this, like, starting intentionally for me was, and Ainsley, I don't know if I ever told you this, but it was like, I want to work with the people that I like. Like, we work hard. I love work. It's my hobby too. And if I'm going to do that, then I want to be surrounded by people that I like and I admire and I trust and like all those things. It's like life is short, right? It's like surround yourself with people that inspire you. And it boggles my mind when I see the insides of some businesses where I'm like, man, you're going to look back 20 years from now and wish you had that time back. Like, I feel like we all have to ask ourselves that every
Yeah,
day.
and when you get the place that feels like home,
Yeah.
let's just call it that for all the right
Yeah.
reasons,
Right.
it's magic. It's so much better than anything else. And if you
Yes.
can create that, build that, thrive in that, no brilliant jerks allowed.
No brilliant jerks allowed. I love it.
It's you the product's better. It just is.
Product's better. I love it. All right, guys, check your hiring processes, check your culture processes. Don't hire any more brilliant jerks. And thank you, Ainsley. I really loved our conversation today.
All right, thanks, Kelly.
Cool.
Thanks so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's show, subscribe to be notified when new episodes become available. And please consider giving us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. This podcast is sponsored by Intentionally, a financial services growth engine design consultancy and agency. If you want to learn more, please email me at kelly@growintentionally.com. Thank you again for listening, and check back to hear what we're not doing next.
The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Kelly Waltrich. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only.